public, no mask, no frontin', turn nothing to something. Now everybody want in. Beacon 50, yeah, I did it with nothing. No label, no backing, just vision and hustling. Used to code in the dark, now I ship in the light. Every post is a brick in the product I write. Dreams bigger than budgets, heart bigger than doubt. They ain't believe in the kid, I still map the route. I ain't wait for a check, I ain't wait for a team. Cursor, a dream and a late night scheme. From the basement, the builders that vibe with the sound. Now it's B1 50 where the real ones found. B150 where the real ones found live. B150 where the real ones found live. Yeah, built in public, built in public, built in public, B150 where the real ones found out. Built in public, built in public, built in public, B150 where the real ones found out. Built in public, no mask, no frontin', turn nothing to something. Now everybody want in. Beacon 50, yeah, I did it with nothing. No label, no backing, just vision and hustling. Used to code in the dark, now I ship in the light. Every post is a brick in the product I write. Dreams bigger than budgets, heart bigger than doubt. They ain't believe in the kid, I still map the route. I ain't wait for a check, I ain't wait for a team. Cursor, a dream and a late night scheme. From the basement, the builders that vibe with the sound. Now it's B150 where the real ones found. B150 where the real ones found live. B150 where the real ones found live. Yeah, built in public, built in public, built in public, B150 where the real ones found out. Built in public, built in public, built in public, B150 where the real ones found out. Built in public, no mask, no frontin', turn nothing to something. Now everybody want in. Beacon 50, yeah, I did it with nothing. No label, no backing, just vision and hustling. Used to code in the dark, now I ship in the light. Every post is a brick in the product I write. Dreams bigger than budgets, heart bigger than doubt. They ain't believe in the kid, I still map the route. I ain't wait for a check, I ain't wait for a team. Cursor, a dream and a late night scheme. From the basement, the builders that vibe with the sound. Now it's B150 where the real ones found. B150 where the real ones found live. B150 where the real ones found live. public, no mask, no frontin', turn nothing to something. Now everybody want in, be confident, yeah, I did it with nothing. No label, no backing, just vision and hustling. Used to cold in the dark, now I ship in the light. Every post is a brick in the product I write. Dreams bigger than budgets, heart bigger than doubt. They ain't believe in the kid, I still map the route. I ain't wait for a check, I ain't wait for a team. Cursor, a dream and a late night scheme. From the basement, the builders that vibe with the sound. Now it's B1 for you where the real ones found. B150 where the real ones found loud. B150 where the real ones found loud. Yeah, built in public. Built in public. Built in public. B150 where the real ones found. No, built in public. Built in public. Built in public. B150 where the real ones found. No. Built in public, no mask, no frontin', turn nothing to something. Now everybody want in, be confident, yeah, I did it with nothing. No label, no backing, just vision and hustling. Used to cold in the dark, now I ship in the light. Every post is a brick in the product I write. Dreams bigger than budgets, heart bigger than doubt. They ain't believe in the kid, I still map the route. I ain't wait for a check, I ain't wait for a team. Cursor, a dream and a late night scheme. From the basement, the builders that vibe with the sound. Now it's B1 for you where the real ones found. B150 where the real ones found loud. B150 where the real ones found loud. Yeah, built in public. Built in public. Built in public. B150 where the real ones found. No, built in public. Built in public. Built in public. B150 where the real ones found. No. Built in public, no mask, no frontin', turn nothing to something. Now everybody want in, be confident, yeah, I did it with nothing. No label, no backing, just vision and hustling. Used to cold in the dark, now I ship in the light. Every post is a brick in the product I write. Dreams bigger than budgets, heart bigger than doubt. They ain't believe in the kid, I still map the route. I ain't wait for a check, I ain't wait for a team.
Hey, Mohammed, can you hear me?
Yep. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good,
To
good,
see
good.
you again.
I wanted to hop on because I am vibe coding some work, so I feel like we could talk.
Absolutely, absolutely. It looks like Christina also from your class also joined, so that's awesome.
Yep.
Amazing. Great. Well, we can actually get started. People usually will show up at some point in the next 10 minutes or so, but it might just also be just you guys today, which is totally fine. More time directly with me. Yeah, I'm here to answer questions for folks. So tell me, what kind of questions you got, and how
Yeah.
can I help?
Mine's more so. Okay, I have a couple questions. One more so like career trajectory question, if that's better, or do you want to go focus on vibe coding right now? We could go with that.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it would be
uh,
better to focus on vibe coding stuff
okay.
just because that's kind of
So
like the purpose of these
okay,
live streams.
sure. So I am struggling a bit right now with some of my projects around getting kind of the back end up and running.
Mm.
So I am working on a project right now that helps mosques in America find speakers for their Friday prayers. Um,
Sorry,
uh,
it was what I didn't quite get it. Can you
so it
say it
helps.
again?
Basically, this product that I'm building is helping mosques right in America.
Moss. Okay.
Basically, find speakers across America. It's like a very complex, like uh, like not complex. It's a very like informal process right now that happens within
Mhm.
like volunteer work, and there's not very formalized speakers out there like in the that speak on Fridays and whatnot. So
Okay.
I'm trying to build like a simple back end part of the app. I kind of got Lovable kind of working, but every time I kind of get Superbase kind of working, it just breaks on me.
I
So
see. I see. And what kind of errors like are you getting? Is it I
I
mean,
think I'm
even you don't have to tell me the technical error, but like what's happening on the front end even that's
um
challenge.
I let me pull it up. Uh, Let me kind of recall what I was doing. So so one part is that like when I do log in, so my password and my emails in
Deity.
hey, how's it going? My email and password kind of each time I kind of input one, create one, it kind of just breaks. I'm guessing the backend's not working up.
Okay,
I'm
you
also
mean for authentication.
yeah, authentication is kind of messed up. And
That's always a
then
challenge.
every time I kind of create a profile, it's like a mock or demo profile, it just
Hmm.
like does not stay saved. So I guess I'm just like
Okay. So
I'm
it's
more
not
so
persisting to the database. So
yeah,
basically,
I
like your user table is not being established in the right way.
yeah. So I'm more so struggling with trying to figure out like how to build a solid backend to where like
Yeah.
it's like solid enough to like get it launched. I guess that's my sort of
Yeah.
issue right now is like even with the other parts that I'm working on with I'm building like a tool that helps people organize pickup games for like basketball.
Okay.
I'm
Cool.
struggling with that because I'm like, oh, like how do I set up the back end? I guess I
Yeah.
have that component, and then I have another question after that. But I think let's start off
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
back end part.
That's a great starting point. I think a lot of people struggle with the back end initially because sometimes it's not something you're like used to like having to think about or deal with.
Mhm.
Usually, a back end developer will literally like design a database based on whatever it is you're creating, and that's actually probably one of the starting points I would say. Like, if you were to redo it, start from the beginning of like how to like not have as many problems. I would start by giving more clear instructions on how you architect the actual backend. So like I'll just give you an example. With B150, I designed some of the screens and then I was like, okay, I need to think about like the database. And I'm going to like every single thing on this screen needs to come from the database.
Mhm.
So I'm going to like literally just document every single element that's on this page. And I think I even fed an image into ChatGPT and said, document this like it's a database structure, database schema. And then it gave me the schema, and I'm like, cool, it's missing these things, add these. And then it's like, cool, like it's not architected exactly the way that I think it should be, right?
Mhm.
Maybe like put this category here and then like have these subcategories in it, right? And like those should be connected to this part of the database, right? So I just explained in plain English like how the database should be connected, right? And then I
Mhm.
said, all right, now format it in a proper schema. And then I took that schema and I fed it actually into, I was using Cursor. So I fed it into Cursor and said, can you build the back end to be structured exactly like this? And a lot of this happens, in advance of building the rest of the app. I think like one of the big mistakes a lot of people make in vibe coding is that they think they can just like one shot prompt it. You know, Lovable, God bless Lovable. I mean, it's a pretty incredible platform. Like, it is amazing that you can just like type in like maybe a sentence or less, and it will build like a pretty full-fledged application. But it is a very opinionated way of doing it, and it's gonna go off and do whatever it really wants, you know. And the problem is that you then lack control over those individual elements. And then when you start to make a change, the seams start to fall apart, right? Because you want to like make a wholesale change to a database, like it can be that's going to break everything in your app, right?
Mhm.
So from the very start, you're going to want to make sure that you break this down into chunks, right? So I would start by building out, well, first maybe start by setting up the front end with just the tooling, right? It's like, oh, I think I want to build this with Next.js, or I think I want to build this with Vite, right? Great. Tell it to install that, to set up the bare bones starting point skeleton application for that. Then you're like, okay, I want to set up authentication with Supabase. Great. Set that up, right? Set up the authentication piece because that doesn't totally depend on the database from Supabase's
Yeah.
auth part. If you want to use Supabase's database tools, you can also use that, right? In which case, that would be a great time to say, all right, please set up the database, right, to include this schema, right? And then it will build that directly. And then I would start building the design system and say, like, here's like a design, right? I would maybe connect like a Figma MCP if possible and say, here's the design, like build me a design system off of this like one page, right? And as a starting point. And then
And
like
this is
really
all
really flesh that out, you
this is
know?
all lovable right here. Like when you're inputting the MCP.
So you could do some of this in Lovable, but like I said, Lovable will like be extraordinarily opinionated about how it
Yeah,
wants to build.
that's what I
And
struggle with too. Yeah.
once you get stuck, right, like you're stuck now, it's a bit harder to debug and figure things out. And that's where some knowledge of coding will be helpful because then you can debug easier. But you also like, I don't know what I'm doing half the time. I don't know what an error means. I'm like, what the F is this? And
Mhm.
like, I'll literally just like copy everything from the console, not even give it context, to be like paste, you know, and pray that it solves the problem. I'm dealing with it right now with a feature that I built and it broke, and now I need to like fix it, and I don't know why it's not working. And I'm like, you know, I literally like will sometimes just dump it in, or in other times I'll be like, can you like break it down for me exactly what's going on here? Explain it all to me, you know?
Yeah.
And then usually I can start to learn how to debug myself, right?
The
So
errors that
those
you're
are just
talking
some
about,
tips.
Adam,
What's that?
the errors that you were talking about, you said that you copy and paste them, and you're working in Cursor.
Yeah, I'm working mostly in Cursor, but
Okay,
you could do this in. I mean, you don't need Cursor to do
right.
to debug, right?
Okay,
You like I'm just using either that can happen inside of inspect like element when you do it in the browser. If
sure.
if you if your debugs are set up to be there, right? You'll see the most of the front end issues there.
Yeah,
And then if you're looking for back end issues, you'll have to look at the server. So, in the case of Lovable, they don't usually give you access to the server, but they will tell you if there's an error, right? So, you'll usually be able to copy that or just say like fix now, and it will fix it, but based on its own instruction, not the very deliberate instruction. Because like what happens a lot of times is the LLM will just like go off and like be like, I know the solution. It's like so freaking
Yeah.
confident. And it's like, no, 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 you don't. Like you're going the wrong direction. Stop. Like read these docs and like try again. Or look at this thing. Like this is working. Like why that should work exactly the same. Like look at that, study it, and then come back and fix this. You know what I mean?
So Adam, in your experience, I've had this issue a lot with the vibe code projects that I've worked on. I have some design background, so to content about me, I'm a product
Yeah.
manager, like you're mentioning earlier in the call, like we talked about. I'm a product manager, but with design experience.
Yeah.
Um, um, a lot of the work that I do on like Lovable or stuff like that, I feel kind of restricted because I need as a designer to go in and move things around.
Right.
And kind of like you're talking about the Figma MCP situation. What's the best tool you recommend for someone that kind of wants to be more hands-on but at the same time still vibe code?
Well, yeah, I mean, the combination of Figma and Cursor is exactly what I do, right? I mean, I'm like deeply hands-on, right? I'm like literally building all the UI myself, and
Hmm.
then I'm taking that, and because I've connected the Figma MCP to, um, to Cursor in my case, I will just take the link and I will dump it into Cursor, and it will generally do a pretty good job of mimicking what I've created. I'll say it usually gets about like 80% of the way there and with
Hmm.
like a lot of issues. And I usually have to troubleshoot those myself and either prompt my way out of it, or in some cases, I will go into the CSS or JavaScript and fix it myself, right?
Hmm.
Um, or like in most cases, Tailwind. Usually they're just CSS errors, right? So especially if they're coming from Figma into your platform, it's not going to be doing backend stuff. It's just
Yeah.
front end. So I have at times used Figma Make. So Figma Make will basically do the same thing Cursor's doing through the MCP, but in its own platform. And so I'll generate it through Figma Make, which honestly takes forever. Like it's way slower, I think, than Cursor. I'm not sure why, but it just is. And then I'll take the generated code from that and I will copy paste it into Cursor. If there's some issue with the MCP, which I've had issues with it connecting in the past, and so as a like that's another way. Like maybe if like, for example, I don't know, I had to check if Lovable has officially integrated the MCP into their import tool for Figma, but if they haven't, then I would do it that way I just mentioned. I would
Yeah.
copy the code and paste it in. If they have, then it would be okay to just do the import with Figma and it should work properly. But I don't know if the import with Figma is just taking a screenshot or if it's actually connecting through the MCP. We'd have to
Yeah.
look that up.
I did the Figma screenshot before, and
Yeah,
it was
awful.
not. It
Yeah,
was
terrible.
awful. It was
In fact,
really bad.
I encourage you to like not even try the screenshots. Like I've had more success with just connecting Figma MCP
Yeah.
and not I used to put Figma MCP plus the screenshots, but I've had much more success just going straight with the MCP. And again, it's like sometimes it's like 95% of the way there, sometimes it's like
Yeah.
75% of the way there. And so I can guarantee you're gonna have to do some work, but to code it to make it work or prompt it to get it to work properly.
I've used I've used Figma Make a decent amount, and I found when going from Figma into Figma Make, there's drastically different results based on whether you're copying the frame as a PNG or you're just straight up copying. So I've copied the frame
Hmm.
as a PNG and fed it through Figma Make and said, recreate this, and
Oh, interesting.
it will recreate all the components in
Yeah.
its own interpretation, but then it
Right.
will take the PNG and add it as a background to the UI. So like
Oh,
you can
Oh
see through the
no.
components and see the components in the PNG, and
No.
it's
No, no. Yeah,
I
definitely don't do that. Like do
yeah, no,
always
no, no.
like you always have to press the little tool button, type in make, and it'll say like do you want to make this like into a file and then press that. Like don't feed the image. That'll you'll get a really bad result.
yeah, I one time did the screenshot situation with Lovable, and it just
Yeah.
pasted that as a background as well, Andy, like you're saying, and I was just
Yeah.
like, what the hell?
Yeah, I mean, when a few months ago when the MCP didn't exist, when I was building B150, basically I was using another tool called Builder.io, and they actually did a pretty good job, and I'm sure they have a tool till today that does a pretty good job, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So there are other tools out there, but yeah, I generally speaking, when do I use screenshots? When I'm only trying to get structure. So, for example, now that I have a design system built for B150, right? Whenever I'm in Cursor, I always reference it. So I'm like, I need to build a new page for a marketplace. and reference at showcase. That's the page that I built with all our components in it. It's like basically a component library, and then use this as like a style reference, and then I feed it sometimes just like the new page, like an image of it, and it knows structurally what to do, and already knows the rules of our design system, and then it will like apply it. Now, if I usually do that for pages that are a little bit inconsequential, right? Like maybe like I would do that maybe with like a settings page, right? Where I'm like, I don't want to spend time designing this page in Figma, right? I'm gonna just go over to Mobin and grab a screenshot of like a decent settings page that I like, copy that, paste that in, and then send it off to like use my design system to build the same thing, right?
So
But I wouldn't do it for something where you're like, I'm really caring about the design of this. I would design that in Figma. I would then import it with the MCP to truly get it like pixel to pixel, what you want.
so just to just to understand, you use Mobin when like Mobin is like a kind of like a dribble substitute almost.
Yeah, are you familiar with Mobin?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't call it a dribble substitute. It's more of a repository of really great, best-in-class assets across, the best apps in the world. And so you can find, screens for mobile apps, screens for desktop apps, websites. And, for me, I use it as like inspiration and say, okay, yeah, I like the layout of this. This is like what I want to mimic. So I'm going to grab that and I'm going to paste that in. And that's what I did for our settings page. I think also our sign-in page, like pages that are just like, I mean, if you want to spend time designing them, great. But like, I don't know. For me, I was like, I have more important things to like focus my attention on right now.
Yeah.
Great question.
Um, and then also like I kind of wanted to get a sense of like I know you talked about it a bit about it earlier, but more so about your workflow, and then and like starting from like 0 to 1, kind of like that. But then also at the same time, I also wanted to ask, like, in that process, I'm sure like we're all have gone into like experimentation mode.
Yep.
When do you feel comfortable like abandoning a project and being like, all right, I'm moving this from like lovable to like cursor, or like just be like, F it, this is like a disaster at this point. I'll give you some
Yeah.
context behind that question. I've worked on some projects on Lovable, kind of just starting off, right?
Hmm.
And then I realized like, crap, this is just like not responsive. This is just like super messy, and I don't
Yeah.
know like if it's me crashing out or if it's me having to be like, okay, like let's start from the beginning, give it more structure, that approach. I'm kind of like want to know more about your workflow in that
Yeah.
context, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. I mean, yeah, I mean, I really like Lovable, and I think there's definitely like there's a workflow that could work where you do start there, and then you migrate it, right? Like you bring it over to like a cursor, where you just have a bit more control because like as soon as you start getting to like really complex stuff, like I find that even though Lovable is using basically the same LLMs as Cursor, like when you don't have like they do have access there into the code base, but there aren't like enough tools that like Cursor provides and really VS Code kind of natively provides where it allows you to debug and figure out where things are and search for things way quicker and like and even like inline prompts like in the code like there's just a lot more power, I think, in the in flexibility inside of Cursor, which is why I would migrate it to a tool like that. Plus the MCP, access, I think is also really important. Um, so, and like that Lovable generally is like extraordinarily opinionated, like I said, about like how it wants to build things. Because it just like it learned the formula that works and like it just like does that formula is from what I observed, right? I don't know like the back end of Lovable, and I haven't used it enough to know that well, but that's been my experience thus far. And I used it recently, I so to talk about like a little bit about the workflow, because I'm doing this with my wife right now, who she's not a developer, she's not even a product designer. She just has an idea and she wants to build something, And so I'm starting to build this tool. I'll flash it to you guys. It's still in development, but I think this will help answer a little bit of your question. So so like the idea behind this tool is like a guided approach to building your next app. And it's like basically takes you through generating your PRD to your schema to building your design library to building, basically the first pages of your application all the way to the last. And so, in this tool, I have you walk through like, scoping out the project, telling us a little bit about what it is, like choosing the features that you'll want, and then like it'll generate a PRD, and then we'll go through and it'll recommend a tech stack that works for you. Then we'll define the styling, and then at the end, it'll give you like a set of prompts that, you'll be able to basically plug into the LLM and start. So in terms of like the workflow, what I'll usually do is like what I described just now, right? Is like I'll try to come up with the idea. I'll instruct like a chat GPT. That's what we're using in this tool, by the way. It's just a lot more structured, right? I'll tell it to build me a PRD, a product requirements document. I will, ask for it to build, based on the features that I have, like help me build out a schema. I'll then define the tech stack, and then I'll define what the design system will look and feel like, and then I will have I'll have it probably generate explicitly some very specific pages I want it to build. But again, like I would not one shot that. I would do each piece individually, and I would do it. For me, I would just start in Cursor, right? Like I don't have any reason to be inside of Lovable personally, Usually I start in Figma because like I want to design it. I want it to have a look and feel. I want to kind of understand the basics of the app. Like I'll show you these are the few screens that I designed for my wife, because she's got a good aesthetic, but she doesn't know how to use really Figma very well. And I'll just pull it up here, but like these were just like a few screens that I designed. I like, all right, we're gonna need a login page and like an onboarding experience. We're gonna need a place. She's doing a dream app, so you can record the dreams you've had. You need a place to like see all the dreams that you've had. And then we're gonna need a way to like record the dreams. So I have like a push to talk button. And then we're gonna need a place to get like insights about all the dreams that you have, like more globally. So like those are the only screens I designed. Like I could go way deeper on this, right? There's just like a million potential screens to design for this, but that's kind of also like an important point about like workflow. I think in this new era of design, it's like don't design every screen right now. Actually, that's like kind of a waste of your time because not every screen is, and every like nuance of the experience is like so consequential, right? It's like if it's something complicated, right, a complicated UX pattern that you need to like articulate, you should design that because that will require a lot of effort, right? And very specific instruction. But if it's like basic structural things like a login page or a settings page, or maybe some incremental change like a hover state, you can probably easily explain what the hover state will look like. You know what I mean? You don't need to like make sure all the buttons are like perfectly done, but I mean, one thing it is worth noting is like, do make sure in Figma that you are building everything with grid, like what's not grid, what is it called? Auto layout. So auto layout is, really, if you don't build it with that, it's going to like really be challenging. But everything should be built with auto layout.
Yeah, that's really helpful. That's really helpful. I guess to what level of detail are you building out the design system? Are you also like are you defining colors, leaving it at that,
Sure.
or are you kind of like just like building
I'll,
components? To what
I'll
level?
show it to you.
Oh, perfect.
I'll show you. I'll show you the one that I built. Let's see. I got to share again. Share screen. Okay. Here we go. So yeah, this was the one that I initially built for B150. And so what I did actually was, so my system is built, I always talk about Radix because I'm obsessed with them. I think they do a great job. So Radix, I want to explain the concept quickly. So Radix has two things to look at here. There's themes, okay, and then there's primitives. And what we're going to be talking about today is primitives. Why are primitives amazing? Well, first of all, they have like a bunch of them. Like they've got like a bunch of here that are all pre-built, but like let's just look at an accordion here, for example. So they pre-built all these things. But what's good about these is these are all like super customizable. You can totally change everything about them to make it your own. But it's like got the base underlying, component and like interactions and everything are all directly, salute, directly into this, and you can customize it exactly how you want. The themes are a little bit more opinionated. So they've taken their system and then they've layered on top of it and built their own large design system that is a bit more, as I said, opinionated about this. And you can customize this too, but it's just a little less customizable than primitives. I want it to be fully customizable. So I built my system on that, and I even fed it this page. Like I literally took this page, I copied that, and then in my cursor, I fed that in, and I said, build me a page exactly like this. And then I said, okay, now I want you to. Here's like a few core components. Here's some buttons. Here's some inputs. Here's some type styles. I want you to build a whole design system. And it literally like built a lot of this stuff for me. Like I didn't even make some of these things.
You said
And
Cursor did this, or
yeah, Cursor did. Cursor
okay,
did.
sick.
Yeah. And then yeah, I mean like all this stuff, like I didn't make any of those. Like it just made those. And then like certain things I had to like work harder on. Like I wanted to make sure the typography was like exactly right, like
Hmm.
exact right sizes. And then like also like I added colors and stuff. It didn't have colors before. I'm like, here's all the colors that you should use, which I think is down here at the bottom. Yeah. So there's some things I was like very intentional about and specific, and then some things I just kind of like let it build and like see what it came up with. And if I didn't like something, I got rid of it. I mean, we don't use half the stuff that's in this system, but it's there if we need it. And like what's good is it's easy to reference, whenever we want to pull something up.
Okay, sorry, I need you. Had a question. My bad. I'm asking a lot of
No,
questions.
no, no. I was just going to say, I'm so glad you brought up Radix, Adam. I just had a conversation with one of our principal front end engineers earlier today. He's working on a new feature and is thinking about overhauling our component library. Over the past couple of years, we just kind of like hodgepodge, like collected, various different libraries. We're currently on Mantine, but it seems like the
Oh yeah.
engineers are interested in migrating into a different library. And so we were talking and going back and forth, and I was like, "Oh, what about ShadCN?" And he was doing some digging and some researching and
Yeah.
discovered that ShadCN is actually built on top of Radix. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
it is correct. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So like basically, I mean, ShadCN's fantastic because they pre-built a ton of like very complex components that frankly Radix has not done, right? Like so we actually use some components from ShadCN because it plays so nicely with Radix and Tailwind that like for example, we have like a calendar section where we're like you would add not calendar but like you have to add the dates of your employment, right? Like start date, end date. And so we use actually the ShadCN component for that. But the other parts of our app are all just Radix primitives. The one you mentioned, it's called Mantime, is that right?
Mantine, yeah.
Or Mantine, yeah. I've heard about that one. Actually, I heard it's like really, really good because it's very customizable.
Hmm.
So, I'm not technical enough to explain all the details about why, but I have heard that about that because I did a ton of research on different platforms, and that's what I discovered because I was like, what is the difference between Radix primitives and themes? I don't get this.
Right.
What should I choose for me, right? But yeah, that if you look at like other platforms, I think like there's one called, I think it's called React Aria that Adobe makes. That's also very extensible, kind of like Radix primitives. But then if you look at things like Material UI, for example, that's very opinionated. It's going to be harder to customize. You can make some changes, but you'll have to decide like, is this actually the UI I want for my application? And if so, I need to understand that if I choose this, it's like I'm in this world. This is the world I'm playing in. Versus like Radix, it's like you have basically full control to do what you want.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's good to know.
So real quick on that, a small little question on that. Um, Excuse my ignorance, but like, when you put in like Radix, are you kind of just like giving cursor just a link to the library, or are you kind of like screenshots? Like, how does that look like?
Yeah, well, sure. Well, let me just show you a few things. Like this is some like basic development stuff that will help you wrap your brain around that.
Okay.
So, when I want to start building with Radix, what I showed you before was because I like the structure of this page. I wanted it to build a page like this so that I had an easy way inside of B150 to like navigate this thing, right? I like that. So that's just a preference thing. You to use Radix in your project like I have done, you do not need this page, although this page very much helps me because every time I build a new page, I can reference it, right? So if I want to start building with Radix primitives, though, I would probably have to start here, probably getting started, and then introduction. Let's see. Yeah, here it is. So here it says npm install Radix UI. So even if you just feed it this page, you could say, I want to build my entire system with Radix primitives, and I would be very explicit, Radix primitives.
Okay.
Can you help me build it? It will read this page and then read this instruction and know this is what it needs to do. But, since I already know it, I probably would just go directly into like cursor here and like, oops, let's find a terminal here. And I would just npm install directly in the terminal and press enter, and it'll start installing it into my system. And where that will go is basically somewhere in here. Let's see, where's your, I think it gets kind of stored technically. All that code gets stored somewhere in here. And then when I'm in the actual like application, let's find like a Radix. Maybe I can find like a button. Yeah. So if I look at like this button component, probably we'll see here at the very top. And again, like I'm not adding this myself. I'm just instructing Cursor to build this stuff. But it should be, maybe we built a custom button. I know we used it for inputs. Let's see. Usually it will say like importing Radix, but it might also just do it directly in here. And yeah, I think like if we looked at the Radix inputs, we would see it, but not something you really, like I'm getting into the technical details here, not something like you really need to know. All you need to do is be able to instruct it that that's what you want to use. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Gotcha.
Cool. Any other questions I can help answer for you guys? Christina, you've been listening quietly, but here to also answer questions if you're around. Okay.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm just like absorbing and learning. Yeah, I really appreciate you opening this forum, and I think what really struck me is the vibe coding is becoming incredibly helpful. Like, you said building this design system for your website save you probably hundreds of hours, but knowing your craft, which you do, help you understand what areas you didn't need it, and so this has been helpful. I'm just observing and learning, and growing as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, like I said, me too. I literally learned something new every day with this stuff. Like, I mean, ask me 3 months ago, I probably couldn't have explained the difference like between Radix themes and primitives, but now like I had to like, I was forced to learn, right? So,
Yeah.
I think that's the idea, is like anytime you have a question too, like just ask the LLM. Like try not to do it inside of Cursor if you can, just because you don't want to like burn a credit if you don't need to. But you know, like sometimes I'll like take it outside of Cursor, bring it into like ChatGPT and like ask it there, and then I'll come back. But if it's like really contextual and I need it to like look at my code base, then I'll just ask it right there. And you know, I've found it worth it to pay for the 200 a month, you know, ultra account. Then I get like almost unlimited, you know, prompts. But you know, something you'll obviously, if you're budget conscious, you got to be careful about.
I'm curious also, Adam, have you played with like make patterns?
Make patterns. I
It's like
actually haven't heard of that one. I
the
someone,
new
you know,
one.
I saw something about it. Let me take a look at it.
Uh,
Um,
or of course called. I might be screwing up the name.
Is it
Um,
magic patterns?
or Magic
Magic
Pirates.
patterns. Sorry, magic patterns. Yeah, sorry, my bad. Yeah,
Let me take a look at that.
I feel
I
like
actually
it's a good
haven't.
starting point for folks.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've
I
kind of
haven't.
played with it. Okay, so I think it might be cool to look into just because it's like looking for your screen. But basically it could be cool just because like if folks aren't so familiar with like Figma or just like
Yeah.
any design background, it gives them a good starting point. And plus on top of that you could like export to Figma and then like play with it however you want to. And
Huh.
then eventually use it as like a
I
actually
would
really,
be
really cool.
I would be shocked if they successfully were able to kind of go back and forth between Figma
Yeah.
and the tool. Like
It's good for
even
like
Figma has
it's
not
good.
figured it out. You know, I
No,
asked
I
them
think it's
like at config, I was like, when are you going to figure that out? They're like, that's a very, very hard problem to figure out. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I know it
You're
is.
you're talking about the going back and forth between Figma and Figma Make.
Yeah,
Yeah,
completely seamlessly with no errors.
yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't used Magic Patterns, but last week I was playing around with Magic Path,
Uh,
and it's an infinite canvas, but it's flow based and prototype based. So like you have an
oh,
infinite
interesting.
canvas, and you can click onto a frame, and it inherently and immediately turns into a prototype. So you can scroll in that
Hmm,
prototype right there in the infinite
that's
canvas,
very
and there's
interesting.
spin off into a prototype flow
Yeah,
to add other features and stuff. It was wild.
yeah.
You guys have you guys I'm looking at Magic Pack right now. Have you guys like read into like the folks that talk about like oh like you could tell in vibe coding like the M dash of vibe coding is like a purplish kind of tone in the background with a little like with like the 30 pixel rounded corners. You could tell that's like a vibe coded project.
It is definitely there is definitely that a lot of that going on. I mean, every like project that comes out of Lovable looks exactly the same. Like it's
Yeah.
like some like a really mediocre designer about 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, built that site, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but you know, it's getting better and better. I gotta say, like it has improved a lot, and there's some interesting tools out there that I need to experiment with more. Like this guy Meng Tu, that's his name, Meng, last name Tu To. He built a tool. I think it's called Aura Design or Aura.build or something like that, and it's kind of it's kind of like what I was showing you before. It's like a vibe coding kind of starter kit, and he has a bunch of like templates you can choose from that he's designed that are really nice that you can choose from to help you kind of get your project off the ground. And he claims that some of them can just like one shot, you know, awesome work, but really have to test that out to see if it's true. Um,
Yeah.
It's so
but
nice to have these resources that is helping guide with a prompt because like the
yeah,
infinite canvas turned into this prompt input that like you get into a prompt input and you're like, where do I start? What do I say? What am I trying to
yeah,
do?
it's so hard.
What's the formatting that this needs to be in?
Yeah.
So yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've started an app and then had to delete everything and start over, you know, just
I'm at that
because,
point right now with a couple projects right now. That's what I was asking you about earlier. So I'm
which
like, oh,
might
I'm
be
gonna,
okay. Like, I mean,
yeah.
depends on how far along you are. I mean, but I'll tell you this, also, like, so I started building B150 actually 6 months ago. It took me 3 months to build the initial version, and then my computer crashed, and I, like a complete noob, never committed anything to GitHub, thinking, oh, I have a pretty new computer, it's fine, right? It's not going to crash. And I know how to use GitHub. Like I know the value of it. Like I was just being an idiot. And literally the computer died, could not recover anything, had to start from zero, right? And rebuilt the whole thing again in 3 months. But this time better and smarter, and like a lot more thoughtfully about my initial approach. So, just don't be afraid to scrap things. Start anew. Build it try to build it the right way from the beginning, and really check the work too. Like, I find that sometimes things get really sloppy. And again, I'm not an engineer, so sometimes, I'll look at things and be like, I kind of understand what's going on here, but I'm like not sure. But like, there are definitely times where like I'll write like in English, just like a test, be like, hey, can you like double check to make sure like the thing you just did is in fact like working the way, and explain it to me, because especially like I'll give you an example, like that Vibecoding starter kit, right? I needed it to make sure that it carried information from one state to the next, because in the first state you describe the app and it generates the PRD, but that PRD actually needs to influence the tech stack, right? Because whatever it says in the PRD, it needs to give a recommendation based on that to the tech stack. But I noticed that it was just like it was giving like random tech stacks. I'm like, oh, this is wrong. I'm like, explain to me exactly how you're generating these recommendations. And it was like, oh well, like, I'm making up random ones. And then I was like, okay, that's wrong. Like, go back and like fix it and use the PRD. Right. So there's definitely, I think like that's an important part of the workflow too, is like check the work,
Yeah. Have you used Chat PRD at all or no?
I've seen it. It's funny, like it literally is. It's like what I'm gonna give away for free, and I think they charge for it. So yeah, they'll go away quickly.
It, is ChatPRD just a chat GPT for PRDs?
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
just
an
a
AI.
GPT wrapper for PRDs.
Yeah,
Okay.
they market it as like an AI co-pilot for PMs. So everyone talks about it within like the industry, but it's like I don't know.
I mean, if you're a savvy person if you're a savvy PM that like actually knows a thing or two about creating a PRD, you could literally like just feed a template into ChatGPT and do the same damn thing. I think
Yeah,
like what's unique about like what I'm trying to create here is like like I talked about before, it's like there's a very structured approach to like build these apps with vibe coding.
yeah,
And if you like follow that direct like very clearly, like you'll have a good foundational beginning of whatever you're going to create. So I think that's why it's like a bit I haven't used their product, so it's who am I to judge? But like I don't know if it's marketed towards PMs, like it's like I think it's the wrong market. The actual market that needs the PRD is actually the vibe coders, right?
yeah. It's more so helpful with like defining like success metrics and whatnot, which is like pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I think we were talking about this earlier in the call that you came into earlier. Folks kind of struggle with like, well, how do I talk about success metrics? It's like okay, like I'll help you kind of like create that guiding metric that you want to look after.
Yeah, I mean, like, for example, like, I don't know, like, I mean, success metrics, like, that's, yeah, like one thing, but like, like we set up our analytics. I built our own analytics platform, you know, and I just used ChatGPT to help me figure out, like, what are the best, like, analytics to track given what you know about, B150. And then I instructed, Cursor to build me an analytics page that had all those charts in it. And it works.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to one thing you guys were saying before, because we were talking about like different tools. There was one other one I wanted to mention. Oh yeah, so like Subframe's another one that's very interesting.
Yeah.
And in full transparency, like I know the founders are really great guys. They're friends of mine, but I've been very honest with them about their tool, and it's in many ways it's a fantastic tool. Like there's some very interesting concepts that they are tackling that I don't think Figma has thought about just yet, or just like they haven't built yet. But with Subframe, it's less of a place to like go and build something like handcraft something on your own, right? It's not as free form as like Figma is, right? So your ability to just go and create is just like a little bit limited because it's the way that I think they've built it is just a lot more structured. And that's fine, but there's another thing that's very interesting, I think, about what they're doing. So they kind of encourage you from the very beginning to build a design system, right? And like even like they're like, yeah, you can use Figma for this. Build a page and then like build some of the basic components of the design system that's on that page, and then start to put them into Subframe. And then this is where it becomes very interesting because like Philip, we actually interviewed him for our podcast. Like Philip said, he before the podcast, literally he took our design system and put it all into Subframe for us, right? Which was very kind of him, but he also was like proving a point of his own product, which was great. And he was like, let's design like a new page together. And so I was like, great, we're like building a marketplace. Like, let's make like the marketplace like homepage. And he literally like just typed in a prompt and then like I think we either chose from a few templates or no, actually we just typed the prompt and it took our design system and it created a marketplace landing page based on our design system. So that was like super interesting and super powerful to like be able to see that in real time and customize it and even prompt to change things. And it also was great because they also have a bunch of pre-built templates for very specific types of scenarios. Because like, let's be honest, like there's like very set UX patterns for certain things. There's some things that are going to break the mold, but like it's pretty rare. Like most UX patterns have been defined. And so that was great too because there was a whole library of things I could choose from that were all like beautifully designed. I'm like, that looks fire. Like, click that one, and it literally took our design system and then applied it to that template, and then we had a new page. You know, so that was like really interesting, and I've actually used it a few times where I'm like trying to like generate a new idea for like a new page, and I'm like, maybe I'll just like spitball with this thing a little bit, and actually like it inspired it ended up inspiring not from that session but from me just using it on my own. It inspired like a portion of the design that we're creating for the marketplace page, so it's very cool.
So you use Subframe as like a generative like thought partner to kind of like a pseudo wireframe, just like generating an idea before actually building the thing in Cursor.
Yeah, like a high fidelity wireframe.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
actually already coded.
Right. Yeah.
Because everything they do there is also purely code. Like anything that gets generated there immediately is already code. You don't have to worry about like transferring it or whatever.
Yeah.
So what's nice is like, and I think there's a way to take it from there and bring it into Figma, but I'm not sure. I think usually what I'll do is I'll just like screenshot it and bring it into Figma. I'll just recreate it quickly. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm really fast with Figma, and
Right.
so I can just like whip things up quickly. You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, even like with the HTML to Figma plugin, like even if you get
Yeah.
something
Usually
generated
it's
in
pretty good.
Lovable or Figma
Yeah.
Make, like you have your components and styles already predefined in your Figma library, that it
Yeah.
almost doesn't even make sense to import that thing
Yeah,
into
yeah.
Figma. Like
If it's good
generate,
enough. If it's
right?
good.
Yeah. Like, or if you don't have that component and you
Yeah.
want to pull that in and then convert it into a component, and all the auto layouts already kind of like,
Yeah. For
created.
pages where you're like, you don't care that much about the design, like I said, like you care, but like it's just like it's basic.
Yeah.
Those pages, great. Like, yeah, take them directly out of Subframe and bring them in. For this page, like it's a marketplace landing page. It's like really critically important.
Mhm.
It needs to look really good and be easy to navigate and has some complex features. So, yeah, for that, like I definitely, it would be so hard to spar with this inside of Subframe for too long. They just took the base, and then I'm like, great, we're gonna add to this and make it better inside of Figma.
Mhm.
Yeah. What's your like your go-to tool for like copywriting?
I mean, usually just honestly, ChatGPT.
Yeah. So, but like, how do you get it to like go beyond like the shallow response sometimes? Because I feel like sometimes my issue is
Yeah.
that, like,
I
It
mean,
gives like a very shallow,
I mean,
clearly
I think it's all
GPT.
about the prompt, right? Like you really just have to be very prescriptive about, the style and oftentimes I'm kind of I call it sparring, it's like, we're like in the ring together. But like, yeah, I'm like literally going back and forth with it till it like I get it to like nail the style of like the tone. And then what's cool is like I have a project now for B150 where like all my chats for B150 always go into there only, right? So it doesn't get clouded with like all the other memory of like ChatGPT. And I do pay for like, the pro account. So like I think there's maybe some special features that I get that maybe somebody who doesn't pay wouldn't get. But I have that group that has all B150 stuff and it knows everything about this project. And it even knows the tone of voice for all our copy. So, because I instructed it and like we worked on it and like it's also heard me type a lot of different things about it. And it's like, okay, I get Adam's tone and style, even if it's sometimes like, what the fuck, you got this wrong.
Yeah, I often have that. I'm just like, what's going on? Like, what? Like, you screwed it up
Yeah,
like completely. I've been having that, but I think what you guys said earlier kind of resonates with me more now. Is like the ones that will succeed within like the vibe coding realm are those that are organized and more
yeah,
structured in their approach. I think that's the name of the game. Even if it means like being structured in Figma, being structured in your like approach. Although like there is some messiness to it, it's kind of hard to like be like, oh, like where do you balance the idea of like building fast versus like okay, build with structure.
yeah. I know it's so hard because like you're so tempted to just be like, can you just like build the whole thing right now? And
You're looking for
I'll
that
go
quick
get a
dopamine
coffee.
hit, that quick hit of dopamine, just like
Yeah, but sometimes, I think like, now that like, for example, with B150, that we have the base app like kind of built and it's learned from the rest of the app, it's certainly like it makes every other page we create, I have to say, like way easier to build. Also because the backend architecture is all set up, so it already knows like, okay, like I see how this is all structured, I know where this is supposed to go, like I don't have to get any more further instruction about what tool to use or, where it should be located, all that kind of stuff, right? So I do think it becomes progressively easier.
The
And that's also a thing that I think Lovable may not do, but I could be wrong. So Lovable folks, if you listen, just hear me out here. I might be wrong. Cursor indexes your entire code base. And so it understands contextually, right, what's going on in your app. I don't know if Lovable exactly does the same thing. I think it does some context, but I'm not sure. I think that what's special about Cursor and Windsurf is that they do that, and they do it really well.
that long-term dopamine hit far outweighs that short-term dopamine hit that you were talking about earlier, Mohammed. The designers that do use auto layout variables are organized will be rewarded in the long term.
Yep, yep, totally,
Yeah.
totally. I think that is definitely the lesson. Cool. I see we're coming up on time. Any last questions I can answer before we go?
I think I bombarded a lot of questions already, so
Thank you so much, Adam. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. Thanks for joining, Christina. And yeah, I'm curious, what are you guys all working on? I know, Mohammed, you shared a little bit about what you're doing, but what about Christina and Andy?
Yeah, I'm working on a marketing platform for nonprofits. I've been here for a little over 2 years, and I started as the first designer on the team, and so it was a lot of spinning up the design system. And a couple of years ago, AI wasn't what it is to today. So my workflow is constantly changing and evolving, much like everybody else's right now in the industry.
Nice.
So I went from I started out in Notion AI to help me write some stuff a few years ago to then moved to ChatGPT, was using it for a lot of similar things. Ended up starting to use Claude, but didn't want to be paying for like multiple LLMs at the time, and so I ended up like I felt like I was cheating on ChatGPT and going to Claude, and I eventually did, but it was because of the artifacts that Claude was generating. And it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
great for kind of like testing ideas and concepts, and can quickly get gut feelings and reactions from my product manager, or a user or something like that, and then be able to jump into Figma and take that. Our developers use Cursor and Claude, but there is still like a gap between design and development. And so a lot of the AI that I'm using and doing that's part of my workflow, it just informs my design process in Figma,
Nice.
and then it stops there. But I would love for that bridge to get closer and closer and shorter for sure.
Totally, totally. What about you, Christina?
Well, I currently work at Apple, and I'm a product manager. Transitioning to more of the, I would like to become like you mentioned on our cohort class, design engineer. That's what I'm looking forward to shift into, because in our master's program we learn how to code. I mean, at least the basics, and I loved it. I love the challenge. I love the just the knowledge of it, and I can see even using Vibe or Claude, what have you, just looking at the code and how writes the code so fast, but then be able to understand what it means. To me, has been very invaluable. And so I'm looking forward to improve my skills in terms of coding, improve my skills in terms of design thinking, and yeah, and then I'm transitioning to a position within Apple that is going to be around UX, product management, implementation. I'm adding research in that. I'm just kind of plugging my, like, hey, this is what I can do. I can do also this, and I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
trying to market myself, but at the same time, um, I'm gonna be like offering what I can do in terms of design for like nonprofits, because I have done a lot of volunteering work here in the community in Austin for like Any Baby Can, a nonprofit who helps kids compose melodies.
Oh, cool.
Um, and so I've done volunteer in different communities. So I'm like, well, I can offer my service for free and then get that practice.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a great idea. Like we've been thinking of lots of things just like that. And I think that's wonderful. Showing, like, I'm meeting with the head of design for the United Nations next week. And so I'm very excited to talk to her about, like, how can vibe coding help someone like the United Nations, right? Like it can help
Oh wow.
unbelievably, right? Like it's just
Yeah.
like the good that can come with this too. It's just tremendous beyond the apps that we create for profit, right?
Yeah.
But that's wonderful. I mean, look into that role I mentioned to you guys on the call, product engineer. At a place like Apple, I could see that becoming a role, and
Yeah.
and it kind of still fits actually quite closely aligned with the design engineer role. They're almost identical. I would just kind of say that the product engineer is just a bit more focused on the product side and less on the design side, and usually is operating with a very clear design system that's already been pre-established. And the task they may take on will be just a little less complex, I think, in terms of like the UX and creativity that will be required.
Yeah.
Um, but definitely
I
look into
was,
it. Could be a good bridge for you.
yeah, I agree. And I was considering, I mean, not right now in the next 2 months, but take a break, hone my skills in the like programming. Um, but John Hopkins University, they offer a really robust AI machine learning master's program,
Hmm.
and you can actually pivot in like whether it be health or whether it be product development. So you can pivot in the areas that you want to learn, and
Yeah.
so that's like my next journey,
Hmm.
getting this master's in AI with John Hopkins, and this combined with my human computer interaction and design,
Yeah.
having a more robust product engineer skills.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, one thing I'll say, and it kind of depends on like the direction you want to go. If you're intending on becoming like an ML engineer or something like that, sure, go to the master's program. Like you'll have to learn to become a extraordinarily deep, coder to be able to do machine learning, right?
Yeah.
Uh, if you're like more interested in the product engineering, design engineering path, like my advice to you would probably be like, don't continue to purchase very expensive master programs
Oh,
when
okay.
you could be investing all your time and energy in just getting practice in the field yourself and like learning by doing. That would just, I think it might be overkill and be very costly, but it depends on your personal goals.
You're right, because now there's just so much available out there in the market, and you're right. I've noticed that someone like exactly like you learn it through doing it.
Yeah.
And then with AI machine learning, it's a lot of math, right? And then there's a lot of classes that I can take and learn. And you're right. It's very expensive.
Well,
$51,000. It's a
it's
lot of
just
money.
again, I don't want to discourage you and that you should seek more opinions than I'm giving you. It just
Yeah.
really, and we'd probably have to go deep into what your real goals are, which we don't have time for today. But
Yeah.
but I would definitely encourage you to really really deeply think about what your end goal is, and if it's to be like a design engineer, like forget about like doing any more studies, like just like get in there and start doing it. Like nobody has experience in this yet. Like be the first, like get as much experience you possibly can and get exposure, share the work that you're doing, actually follow Andy. He's doing a phenomenal job with all the content he's creating and personal branding. Actually, he's a really great example. And start building. If you're like, hey, I want to go become like an ML engineer and like do like really like amazing coding stuff at a place like Apple or Meta or Google, yeah, go get the masters and like go deep in that space and go get a job at Google DeepMind or something.
Oh,
But like that world is like very competitive and like yeah, like it's going to be an uphill climb, that's for sure.
yeah. And then I definitely want to stay in a space that is creative, and but also adds that touch of knowing how technology works. So yeah, it's more to explore. But I really appreciate you doing all of this, and congratulations with opening this forum. I think it has great
Yeah,
opportunities, and I love to, um, yeah, just get a link to your academy company. Like, just you never know. Maybe some
yeah.
of my teams that have the UX/UI projects might reach out to you because I
Oh,
know that some
that'd be
of my
amazing.
yeah. Yeah, some of the managers my team works with, sometimes they need, like designers for a 6-month project or what have you. And I know I don't remember the name of the company that they contract. But obviously it takes like, the ND agreements and all that. You probably know about all of that. But yeah,
Yeah.
um, I don't know if I have your LinkedIn or I
Yeah.
think I might have sent it to you.
Everybody here, if you're not already connected with me, please add me on LinkedIn. Be happy to connect. Yeah,
Okay.
and, that sounds awesome, Christina. Would love that. I mean, we've always wanted to work with Apple, so that'd be incredible. And then otherwise, please do, join B150. I know Andy's there already. We're like I said, we're doing the Vibeathon. Literally, it's coming up end of this week or
Yeah.
31st are going to be the deadline, but that gives you a few days to like whip something up. I mean, really like there's not a whole lot of competition here, guys, right? Like we don't have
Yeah.
like thousands of people participating. If nothing else, try to get yourself a free prize at one of these great
Yeah,
companies.
Christina and I right now we're in the end of our master's program right now. So
Oh, so it's like
we
you're
have
in the
our
home stretch.
yeah, we have our capstone defense this Thursday. Or
Oh,
Christina,
damn.
here's
Okay. So
Thursday as
you're in
well.
the
Or,
thick of it. All right.
yeah.
Well, yeah. I'd imagine you won't have time then, but hopefully we'll do another event. And but regardless, I really encourage you guys to join the community. I think it's full of people just like you know, who are in the same boat. They want to learn this stuff. They want to put cool work out there. They want to ask questions, and like that's what this community is all about. And you know, I'm doing all this to help support builders just like you who want to create something and really have the motivation to do so. And I'm just trying to help be the wind in people's sails to get there. So,
Thank you so much, Adam, for your time.
yeah, thank you
We'll stay
guys.
in touch. Bye.
Take care. Bye, guys. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
So yeah, thanks for hosting.
You're welcome.